All right, well, good to be back with you again. The train continues to move on into Game 10 now. So, looking back at Saturday's game, I think a lot of good can be taken from it. I think there's plenty to learn from. It was one of those games where there was plays here and there throughout the game that maybe could have sent it in a different direction, but ultimately we found ourselves in a 28-28 game in the second half, and there's a level of credit that would go to Eastern that got it to that point. And again, there was plays on our side of things that maybe put it in that position as well. But ultimately, how we responded from that point forward, Tommy with the big touchdown, our next offensive play, the defense shutting them out the rest of the way. Offensively, we were able to bounce back from the turnover and put that last score up on the board. I think it showed a resolve again, a belief in one another. I don't think anybody, on our sideline panicked, and there's a lot that can be gained from just that being put to the test. Again, we really hadn't been put to the test that late in the game for a while. So pleased with how we came out of it, and again, I think plenty of things that we could grow from. I think defensively, fairly obvious that was the most yards we gave up in the run game. A big chunk came on one play, and that was a play that we should have had people there. And I think that was the common theme. We didn't fit the run quite as well, I think, as we had. The +1 quarterback element of it is part of that. I think the weight of the reps throughout the course of really the week and a half would have gone to an offense that would have leaned more towards Visparis. But ultimately, we practiced, the thought of Jared Taylor playing quarterback, so it wasn't like we didn't, practice towards a running quarterback. So, I think ultimately we didn't fit it as well, in our effort in our mindset was where it needed to be, though. So it wasn't like you look and say, boy, if we'd only played harder. That wasn't the case. I think we played real hard. We continued to hang in there and believe. We worked through some things. I think we adjusted as the game went along relative to their offense. And then I think flipping around our offense against their defense, we knew that the variety of fronts that they presented would give us some issues here and there, but ultimately we put up some really good numbers. We were really effective for the better part of the first half. I know we had to punt, and then we didn't get a fourth down in the second half, which hurt us. Then we turned the ball over in scoring territory for them. So I think things to work on both sides. I think special teams, we made the big play on kickoff, getting that turnover, and ultimately didn't give up a big play. We were fortunate that they had a penalty on the fake punt. But ultimately, in all three phases, we felt we had an edge, but maybe not as big an edge as we've had in weeks prior. So happy to come out of it with a win, happy to come out of it healthy. Really didn't sustain anything, at least sitting here on Monday, that will carry into this next week. And now we're back at home. It'll have been a month about between home games, so excited to be back in Bobcat Stadium in front of our fans. And facing a team that I know to this point hasn't played the level of football that they were predicted to or they would have hoped, but also a team that is very dangerous at the same time. They've dealt with quite a bit, it appears, injury-wise, but offensively they continue to put up numbers. Conklin at quarterback is a guy that I think continues to grow as the season has gone along. He's over 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns. At this point, you can just see his confidence growing throughout the year. They got a couple good running backs. I know their leading rusher, Tolliver, didn't play last week, but I think they can certainly run it. And then you look at the receiving core. Their top three receivers are 40 catches, 38 catches, 36 catches. So their ability to spread the ball around is certainly different than the last team we played, or most teams for that matter. So offensively, they're maybe not running it as well as they have. They certainly don't have the quarterback run element that they've had the last several years, whether it was Bennett last year or the two quarterback system they played before that. but they can still run it, and they're throwing it pretty effectively. Defensively, the one thing I know that jumps out at me right away is they don't have a single starter listed this week that they had against us last year. And that's significant. When you or whatever we played them, game 8 or game 7, whatever it was last year, in a year's time to not have a single guy starting that started in that game last year, that's a lot of turnover, and some of it's been injury, some of it's graduation. I think their hallmark, as much as anything, has been their defense the last several years, and obviously they're not, statistically doing the things that they have done, but I still think they're very principled. They got a defensive head coach. Coach Thompson was their defensive coordinator prior to jumping in that role, so I imagine they're continuing to work through improving that defensive side of the ball. They're led by their 2 linebackers. Those 2 are their best players. They're leading tacklers, all that. So, I think we got to continue to find ways for us to be able to run it, certainly, but then continue to find ways for us to be as balanced and find our playmakers as well. So with that, I'll open it up. Excited again about the opportunity to be back home and keep this thing moving forward.
Defensively, I think they lead the big bad action. The numbers don't look that bad. And that's, I guess you guys kind of, from that last year.
Yeah.
But I guess what would you diagnose as far as going along with that?
Well, you just look at the most recent games. I think last week Saturday against Portland State, Sacheret was able to get after them in the run game. They were able to hit a bunch of big pass plays, and it wasn't just Sacheret. The running backs ran for some yards. The week before, I think Idaho State's proven to be, a really prolific offense, and I think they had their fair success throwing the ball. So I imagine it's, the inexperience piece does show up, and they've had some real playmakers the last several years. In particular, when you turn over a defensive line, I think that's pretty challenging, and they got a couple guys that played roles last year, but it's a pretty significant turnover. So, I don't know that it's any one thing. I know right now, where they're at. They've been taking the ball away quite a bit over the course of the year, but then they've turned it over quite a bit too. So they're on the minus side of the turnover margin, even though they have taken away quite a bit. So again, we got to expect them to keep moving forward. And again, I'm sure Coach Thompson is doing everything he can to look at, okay, we have a running offense, a running quarterback. Okay, what do they need to fix from Saturday night? And they were big plays again. Portland State had a lot of big plays against them. And try to limit the big plays and make us really earn it. And that's we got to be prepared for that type of game.
Looking back at Saturday, it seemed like the D line kind of really stepped up in that fourth quarter when you guys got those big stops. Is that something you kind of look at as far as the line we had earlier?
Well, that's what do you love when a team runs on you? It can be a lot of things. It could be we were just getting pushed around, we were getting driven out, and that wasn't the case. It was easy to watch. Well, it wasn't easy to watch. It was hard to watch at times, but it was easy to see. It was us at times just being out of position. And sometimes that the blame does fall on you as a defender, but sometimes the credit goes to the offense too. I know they got us out leveraged really on both of Wortham's long runs. There's 96 yards on 2 carries right there. We just we were technically where we should be, but we got blocked on both of them. I think there was a couple other times where when the running back got loose, we just didn't quite fit something right. We played behind a block, and I'm talking about a handful of plays, but I really think it was Wortham's 2 rushes and then the running back running like 12 carries for 70 yards. That's really what hurt us, so that's 160 some yards right there. And it wasn't, I guess Taylor's runs kept the chains moving at times, but I think his long was 7. That was 25 carries. So, and I know there's a couple lost yardage plays there, including the last one, but ultimately, I thought we played well up front by and large. We were physical up front, and we disrupted him as a passer. again, we let him get out of pocket a few times, which, coming down the stretch, we're going to have to find a way to keep guys in pocket. We've been off and on, hot and cold on how that's gone. So pleased with the D line by and large. It wasn't one of those games where you just feel like we just couldn't hold up. We held up just fine. I mean, Alec Eckert and Paul Brott made as many tackles in that game against the run as they have in any other game. So certainly a good game to build on with those guys. Well, it changes now. You just look at their numbers. What they were able to get out of Bennett, both uh, called quarterback runs, unscripted scrambles, was significant. He was a really good athlete. And then you look before that, we didn't play him with O'Hara, but they would put O'Hara in, and that was such a big part of their offense, their running game. So, I think there's a void there. It's obviously a running back oriented run game now. So, how do you make up for that? You throw the ball a little bit more. You know, and beyond those three receivers, their backs are involved. I think Todd Tolliver's their fourth leading receiver. They don't have the dominant tight end from a receiving perspective that they've had in Martin from the last couple of years, but then I think their tight end is their 50th leading receiver. So I think you just see the ball spread around more. And if we're talking 10 to 15 plays a game, it just goes in different directions, probably going more to the pass side. Yeah. I think good. I think the bye week was an opportunity for a bunch of guys to recharge. So I think that's at a good time for us. I think there was some physical moments in that game, but to come out of it healthy, I think we're feeling really good. To get Julius back, and I know Julius didn't play a ton, but just to get him back going, I think is something that we'll build upon. Get Adam back. I thought Adam played really well. Bryce did some things out there. Bryce and Neil, it was really intention that they would split reps, but just they were splitting drives, and Neil I think got more plays than Bryce did. So yeah, I think health wise, depth wise, just in general, a big charge has been to continue through this time to build our depth. We have lost some significant guys on defense, but we've had guys be able to step in their roles, and just as important is, okay, who's stepping into those backup roles. And I think we've identified those guys, and we've done a good job at least preparing more and more guys each week. So yeah, as we head down to the home stretch into November here, I think we're pretty fortunate with where our health is at. Well, I hope it's that we don't think about things like that. I think our ability to live in the present moment has allowed us to just keep stacking these up, and I really think it has to. It's that simple, but that's really complicated. I think as you get into November, I think the stakes do rise. We have goals in this program that are beyond the 1-0, but living in that world and really going back to work each week, and it's not that we've invented that this year. I think we've talked in terms of 1-0 much more this year, but it's been how we've tried to treat each and every week, each and every opponent prior to this year in my 3 years too. So I think it's played out the way it has. We're fortunate to be in the position we are, in the last undefeated team in the FCS. So, we got to do everything we can to keep that going. So, I think our guys they've embodied it. I think they felt like coming out of last year, maybe we did get a little ahead of ourselves at times. Maybe we made some assumptions about what was out in front of us, and becoming more grounded, becoming more in the moment. We were more intentional about that going all the way back to January.
Brent,
Yep.
back to beginning of your time here and your first impressions on kind of what you had in Ryan Larkin, and then it's also part of what his progression looked like for you to how it's on the field a lot for you, and now
Yeah.
as a senior too. Take me through what his journey was like.
Yeah, I remember sitting down with each and every one of the guys that first February back in 21, and at the same time, we'd gone through the depth chart with the coaches, a lot of which were returning. I think at that time Ryan was a guy that certainly had a lot of potential. I think was highly thought of after what he did at Bozeman High, both on the football field and the basketball court. But he was still young, and in talking to Ryan, I know he'd had some injuries to that point. He was a guy that was on the front side of developing, front side of developing confidence. I think as much as anything, and would have had a few opportunities to get on the field in some facet in 21, but not too many. I know we leaned on Trayton and Derek and even Ryan Davis quite a bit that year. And then I think in 22, Ryan took on some really serious special teams roles, and you could see, his confidence, grow, and Trayton and Derek were still there at the same time, so. And that really continued until mid-season last year was actually when we played Sac State, was really the first time Ryan got a chance to go out there and kind of fulfill this promise. And I think since then, his role's grown, his confidence and his understanding of what's in front of him, and the opportunity, I think, is all come to fruition, I guess. And that's what you want, because it doesn't happen necessarily overnight for anybody. Some of our guys, do get not buried in the depth chart, but they're just going to be behind some older, experienced guys, and that you can't allow that to define who you are and how you go about your business of getting better. And Ryan's dealt with not only that, but then health challenges kind of along the way, and he's really persevered. And for any team to be what we want our team to be, you need seniors that have their very best years, and you need them to be numerous. And we have the big senior class, but it's guys like Ryan that haven't necessarily played a ton until their senior year that really add to that equation, I guess. And I've been really pleased with the year he's had thus far and his leadership within that group. Um, and he's in the midst of certainly having his best year.
When he doesn't see the biggest question about where you guys kind of way to start.
Yeah.
How much have you seen him kind of embrace being a little bit more involved this year? I don't know how many 6-year guys you have in the game, but other guys maybe this year, playing a little more. How much do other guys maybe learn from him? Get from him right now.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. We had a few examples of that. And Ryan's maybe the most significant example of a guy that's weighted. In a good to great program should have those stories. It should be the guy that knows it's not about him. It's about the program. He keeps after it. He'll get his turn, and yeah, I think he's a great example of that. And I hope even within that group, we got some talented young players that aren't playing a ton. Hunter Provience comes to mind in particular as a second-year freshman. Hunter's playing, and he's playing here and there, but I hope he looks at a guy like Ryan and sees him as a really good example. So we need guys in this day and age to value being part of this program over anything else. See that their opportunity ultimately will come, and I think so much is made about playing and stats just in our society in general with sports, more so now than ever. And at the same time, we're trying to have a program that's about team first, and it's guys like Ryan that certainly define that. And he's not the only one, but yeah, to your point, I think you're a great example for young guys that bide your time, keep working, and it'll work out for you. Well, I think he's in a pretty good spot, and getting out there and being tackled. We didn't do that at all during practice, so that goes back to April for him. So I think, you know, uh, that was a step for him, I guess, as much as anything. And he had a couple decent opportunities. He had a couple opportunities that weren't great. But going out there and taking on a true tackler versus a scout team guy that's going to tag off is a little bit a different world. So, you keep, I guess, adding to his plate. Hopeful that there's more opportunities to come. As we move forward, and I trust that he's going to make the most of them. Well, between just Julius, our training staff, and kind of just what you see with your own eyes, I think it was all those things. Going back, I think he was probably in position, I'm going to say probably, for that Portland State. So, it's been a deliberate ramp up, but ultimately getting out there and playing in a real game where you could be tackled was the next step. And I think, how limited it was one thing, but there was still, he had 5 carries, he got tackled 5 times, and I think that we can put that behind us and him, and obviously move forward.
Hey, Tom. We're doing a little bit of before, you guys spent in Montana having a patrol officer on the roads. What's that kind of like? You notice it? He calls you a lot. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, it was a program started before I got here. I do think there's the practical piece, I suppose, to the post game protection, so to speak, I guess. But more so, I think just an ability for us to partner with the Highway Patrol. I think that's probably the biggest thing I see, an opportunity to have a patrolman on our sideline, travel with us on the road, to kind of bridge that gap, obviously, between, our team and law enforcement. I think that's a positive piece, no matter what, whether it's BPD, UPD, whatever it might be. And it just so happens with the Highway Patrol, I think we got a really good partnership going with them, and really appreciate their willingness to want to be, a part of our sideline, our travel crew, and yeah, I don't know how much protection has been needed in my, I guess, 50 games now, but they're there in case something does go awry.
Not really touchdown. I think in that situation, said that it's easy to run at or to check down or something. So I guess maybe take to Tommy's ability to make that throw, to have the confidence there, especially coming off of breaking.
Yeah, you get sudden change opportunities like that as a play caller first. You want to be overly predictable, but those are opportunities where you might feel like you got the defense on their heels all of a sudden. They just came off the field, and in that case, they're maybe scrambling to figure out, what had happened along the course of that previous drive. They get thrown right back out there. They hadn't had any time to sort that out. You want to be able to take advantage of that sudden change piece a little bit. And obviously the field position allowed for us to take, really what turned out to be a shot to the end zone. So it starts with Tyler and the play call, and then Tommy's ability to execute that. I think and hang in there. That he got hit on that play. I know. Taco being able to navigate it. Obviously, ultimately they're playing man coverage, and the guy gets a little bit caught in the backfield with the play action, and Tommy's able to slip, or Taco's able to slip the defender, and Tommy was able to throw a strike to him. So, opportunistic play. We were up 14-0 just like that, and it was good to grab the momentum early. Obviously, we gave it up as the next couple quarters went along, but big to get up 14-0. Yeah. Well, we had 3, and in each case, there's probably something we can. That's what I'm talking about, detail. He got hit on a pressure that we should have had. We had enough guys there. We messed it up. That was a drop back, and a couple other play actions where, we just didn't quite finish blocks or on that touchdown. Probably gave them too good an angle. So I think those, I probably talked in terms of defensive details from time to time, but there was certainly some offensive details that went into, I think, those three quarterback hits in particular.
Coulter, do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't probably even think in those terms at all. I know, we've only played them once in my 4 years, and we got them last year. I think I think you tend to live in the careers of these guys too. At the same time, I know we have those 6-year guys that were red shirts back in 19, so those guys probably remember it. I know Coach Daly was on that staff as well. So um, I don't know. I think we tend to live in the time that we're here more than anything, and we've only played them once. I think that's, you look at a team like Eastern Washington. Now we've played 4 times. I think we've played Weber 4 times, and these guys we've only played them the one time. Same goes for, I know, for Davis. We've only played them once. So I think with Sac State, I think you recognize how good they've been, through that same stretch. I think that's what you know, and while the record's fallen off a little bit this year, I think you sense that they're capable on any Saturday of breaking out of what's kind of occurred now the last few weeks, and we got to be ready for that. Yeah, they're living within the same, I think, relative world. Little multiple front wise, mixing up coverage, um, you know, uh, principled by and large. I say that, and we go from a week where we had no idea what we would see with Eastern. They'd shown so much over the course of even the last month. And Sac State is quite a bit different in that regard. Again, their success has been twofold. It's been offense and defense, but I think a big part of it has been how they've played defensively. So they are not straying from that scheme. Players are different within it. I think front experience and some of those things is certainly different. But yeah, they've been in a pretty similar world. Yeah, I think it's Borders, right? The next guy up. Yeah, didn't that part didn't change a whole lot. And thinking back to last year, they had Fulcher, and Fulcher was really good. And then he going out early in our game, but they still, I think, were able to do things, on the ground. So yeah, they have a good stable. They've been running through some guys. I just think the run game is different without the quarterback element being so prevalent. But they got a good offensive line led by Slater, who's certainly one of the better linemen in all of our division, I would say. And I think they've played good up front offensively, and I think more than anything, I look at the last several years, that's been the foundation for them. So the tweak in the offense comes to a point where, okay, we got a different guy playing quarterback. How do we play to his strengths, but still be able to run the ball? And I think beyond Tau Tolliver, yeah, they've been productive. Yeah, I think he's doing a good job. You can see again his confidence growing, and anytime you had a young guy and the ball is being spread the way it is, I think that's a compliment to, I suppose, play calling, but also a compliment to him. It's easy for a young guy to continue to find the same guy over and over again and zone in on one guy and not read through things, whatever. But I think that's a pretty telling stat when the ball spread out as much as it is. And they have some, I think Gibson, I think he's a really talented receiver. He's 40 catches and the next two guys are 38 and 36. So, I think he's got the ability to extend plays, at the same time. And he's played, I think he's continued to play very poised. And given the situations they've been in tight games, a couple overtime games, chasing points, the way it unfolded the other night, and then a lot more gets put on a young kid's shoulders. So for him to improve upon his game through a challenging time where, he hasn't been able to just sit out there in the second half and hand the ball off, I guess. I mean, I think that's probably what, you really grow, through adversity, or you crumble. And he's, I think, continued to grow. Well, I think media market wise, I think where they're at, and I don't know the ins and outs whatsoever, but their potential to whatever, if it's raise capital or make some bold moves is a little bit different than some of the other locations within the conference. Being in California, being a state school along with three other state schools that are FBS, I suppose that maybe plays a part of it. But I think they've been outward as far as any of those conversations go. I really the big NIL number, I don't know what to make of that, or what that even meant, honestly. But they got a little different situation, in Sacramento, California, than we do here in Bozeman, Montana, as far as just pure population, businesses, etc. So, whether there's anything to it, they're outward thinking, whether that's outside forces maybe forcing their hand, I don't really know. But each team, I think, in this changing landscape, each school in this changing landscape has got to be forward thinking. Whether you're outward thinking or not, I don't know, but it certainly has to be forward thinking, and that's apparent that they've been, and we'll see where it goes. Yeah, absolutely. I think the season, and I say the season that Tommy has put together, because I do think this award should be a season award. Certainly, what you've done over your course of your career, and Tommy would have all of that, is important. But you're looking at the um, Player of the Year or whatever for the season, and Tommy has certainly done everything we've asked. I think his growth in the passing game for us, his efficiency, has been beyond noticeable and beyond impactful. I think his running ability, while maybe not, he hasn't accumulated the same amount of carries and yards. I think the big play ability has been significant. And then what that means, what his threat means to the rest of our running game is significant. There's no way to quantify that, but the threat of Tommy running and what that does for our rushing stats and our running backs, is significant. And in his leadership, and his who he is, relative to our success. I do think, whether it's FCS football or NFL football or anything, I think wins and losses, goes along with a quarterback. It's the only position it does. And there's something to be said for, he's the quarterback right now with the best record in the country. So you'd have my vote. I don't vote, though.
Anything else in the room?
And Julius, I guess just kind of being back out there this weekend, how did that feel?
It was awesome. Being back with the guys is always fun. Feeling like an athlete again. But it was awesome. We were able to get the dub. Got some things to work on, but ultimately it was awesome.
Oh, I guess just kind of going back to your injury. I guess was that in the springtime, or I guess what was that process about?
Yeah, that was in the springtime. Just been a long 8 months
Yeah.
working to get back to this point, just to be able to be back with the guys. So I'm blessed, and I thank God. So
Yeah, is that a knee injury? Or?
yeah, it was a leg injury.
Okay. Oh, and we talked to Drew earlier, just how you guys were kind of working together. What was that like going alongside him?
It was awesome. You know Drew, you know me, and it was awesome. We could just use each other to compete off each other and kind of push each other to be the best we could. Likewise in practice, we just did the same thing in the rehab room and making sure we didn't let each other fall under that standard and just continue to hold each other accountable. So it was really fun.
Can you kind of talk about the coaching kind of role you moved into these, first 8 games with, Adam and Scott Trey really going off? How were you there for them?
Just really just being that kind of like shoulder to lean on type of guy, but more or less anything I see, just another set of eyes on it. They are remarkable athletes, so it's not much I really have to tell them. But when they ask questions, when they do it, a lot of guys tend to shy away from helping people. I love it, so I want to see them be the best they can be too. So.
Yeah, Coach Mix has talked about how you're just such a veteran and such a leader in that position group. What's your leadership style?
Really just communicating, hearing guys. I'm not this big. Like on game days, you see me, I'm rah-rah, but, I'm not going to yell at guys when there's mistakes because it's going to happen within the game of football. But it's being able to communicate it in a way that guys can understand and not get defensive. So I was able to do that, and they're really good with they're really good with taking criticism. So if there's anything that I say, they're all ears, and I love that because you don't get that from everybody. So
Mentally, how's it been just not being able to be out there for so many weeks and seeing the success of the team and stuff like that?
it's awesome seeing everybody win. Personally, as a competitor, it's always hard not being on the field. But you love to watch your guys do what they love, and that's kind of what I kind of leaned on, and a bunch of my guys and family. I just kind of made sure to love the process while everybody else was doing everything and enjoy it. So.
The mindset, obviously, from way back in June has been to go 1-0 pretty much every day.
100%.
Every opponent. So how have you kind of viewed that and helped that from the side?
Honestly, that's helped me with just recovering. Actually, on the mental side of it, it's always hard going through an injury, especially a big injury. But going 1-0, I applied it to my rehab process, and that's what me and Drew both did. We made sure we went 1-0 that day, whatever we could do that day. To be the best we could be, and then whatever we could also do to help motivate the team to be the best they could be, even though we're not out there every day with them. So,
What was the kind of ramp-up process like over the last month as you're getting back on the field, kind of working your way back?
really, it's just kind of getting back in the flow of things. You kind of got to find your flow. You got to find your groove and everything because, coming off an injury, things are going to change within your body. Things are going to change within the team. So it's kind of just adjusting and getting back to how I play football. So.
Was it tough kind of, I guess, hold yourself back once you got back on the field? You wanted to probably go 100%?
Yeah, the coaches, they kind of want to use me in, but, me, I'm ready to go. When the game time hits and the adrenaline hits, to me, it's go time. So I was excited. to deliver the first hit, too. I didn't want to get hit. I wanted to deliver the hit, so.
Anything you learned about yourself, I guess, throughout this whole process?
I would say mentally, I feel like I got stronger, and I want to get stronger and continue to grow mentally. But I think just that adversity, you never know who you are until you go through a big-time adversity. I've been through some other challenges, but this by far has challenged me the most. It's the longest I've been out. So it was awesome to figure out that, I can be tough and I can lean on guys emotionally as well, not being afraid to talk to my teammates and express that emotion to them and put God first as well. So.
Mentally, how great was it for you to get that year back and be able to come back next year?
Good. It was amazing. That kind of made some decisions easier, and kind of my time rehabbing a lot easier because without that, it's kind of hard to figure out where I'd be right now. Because truthfully, I came back. I'm still pushing and going through some things, but it's just a process. So.
Being described as a gamer, kind of better practice or a better game player than practice player. I guess what goes into that? Why do you think that kind of is the case?
I think just, going against guys that are not wearing the same colors as you, there's just a different intensity that naturally comes out in me. I go hard in practice, I go hard in the game, but when it's not my guys that I'm looking at across the line, and there's things bigger to play for, then it's a lot easier to kind of go 10 times, even harder than 110%. So.
And these final 3 games are just so important, but you guys are so good at keeping that dialed-in mentality. What's the mindset like going into these final 3 regular season games?
1-0. Just go 1-0. Right now we got Sac State. Just handle our business and trying to get better as a team collectively, and fire on all 3 cylinders as a team. So.
Adam had that 90-plus yard touchdown like the first game. Scott had that truck. Were those the kind of the highlights of the running back, the 2 squad, or was there something else that comes to mind?
Honestly, I mean, all the plays by the Juice Squad was awesome to me. I know sitting back at home when I was watching the one with Adam, insane. And when I watched the one with Scotty, insane. Like, I jumped out of my seat on both of them. So, just watching the guys compete, watching them do what they love is awesome. And I get excited as well, and it's a cool thing to see. So.
You looking to pull out any hurdles this weekend? You're still even back in there?
Yeah, we're instincts. We'll see how it goes.
Backward.
Take one backwards
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was wild.
What
But-
did Tommy hurdling? I know it didn't count, but did you give him lessons or something this offseason?
No, that was all him. I even asked him, I was like, hey, where'd you learn that from? He was like, yeah, that's the one time I'll do it. But it was awesome. It was cool. It was really cool.
Some of your videos slowed down many, many times. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's seen that video.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, how are you guys kind of reflecting on that defensive performance? The ups and the downs, especially kind of being able to stop them in the last few drives.
Yeah, we always want to put 4 quarters together. That's always the goal. But, this past Saturday we didn't. We came out a little slow. Their offense cooked up some good plays against us. But ultimately in the 4th quarter when it mattered the most, we were able to come together as a group and get some critical stops and allow the offense to do their thing. So I think just at the end of the day, we were able to face adversity and get over that hump.
We heard that it was a bit of a challenge when Vespers was a game-time decision. He didn't play number 0, their quarterback. Was that kind of a challenge for you guys? You get thrown something you weren't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, that was a guy we were preparing for all week. They have schemes set up just for him. But at the end of the day, we have to, stick to our game plan and whatever our coach calls. We're gonna get on the field and run that play. So it was definitely tough adjusting, but we got it done.
What made Chisholm the toughest to prepare for? What kind of makes him great, and how are you guys able to bottle him up to some extent?
Yeah, he's a great player. He runs good routes. He catches the ball. He blocks hard on the perimeter. Just overall good receiver. We knew what we had on our hands. We knew what we had to stop. Coach Daly prepared with his play calling. Coach Shep, as far as the defense, we all knew that that was a guy we'd have to stop. So every play it was kind of like, where's number 7 at? Even if he wasn't necessarily getting the ball. But yeah, just our preparation. That's all it came down to, our preparation, and knowing what we had to face on Saturday.
Those fake reverses, how kind of surprising were those?
Nah, that was crazy. I actually wasn't on the field, but just seeing something like that, because we've got hit with a few reverses on the season so far, and seeing their offensive coordinator come out and do a fake one is kind of like, hats off to you. There's definitely things on that play that we could have cleaned up to get the ball down, but great play by them. We have to do better on our end.
What did Tommy's 76-yard touchdown do for you as a defense, you guys as a team?
Yeah, that was just a big spark for us. We're on the bench just watching, and we see Tommy get all this open field, and we know that he's one of the fastest guys on the team, so nobody's catching him. So after that, we seen him probably at the 30-yard line. That's like, okay, that's a touchdown. Let's line it back up. Let's get ready to go get a stop. And I think that was a big momentum changer for us in the game.
You spoke a little bit about the adversity. What does it kind of do for you guys as a defense to be able to go through a game like this and still come out on top?
Yeah, I think it was great for us because all season, up until I think New Mexico was the last time, but all season, we're playing everybody. Starters come out 4th quarter. Twos, threes are getting in. Some freshmen are getting in, but we weren't really challenged up until that point. So I think it was a great test for us. Just that this season isn't going to be a cakewalk. Playoffs is going to get hard as well. So we had the opportunity to see what we can do when our backs were against the wall, and I think we ultimately came up on top.
A little off topic. I've heard a couple different perspectives of the Iron Ort.
Oh man, this one's
nickname.
crazy.
I
This
guess,
one's crazy.
What about your?
I know it the most. I know it the most. All
Yeah.
right, so me and Ort, we actually interned over the summer with this guy named John Kanoki, and we would go to lunch every day on our break. So he took us to Firehouse or something like that, and I order, he orders. John's the last one to order. Me and Ort, we go and sit down. John comes and sits down last with us, and then they call our names out for the sandwiches. So they're like, Simeon, John, and then Iron Ort. And so we all start looking at each other like, what the heck? And so what it comes from is his number is number 26. So on the periodic table, Iron is number 26. So it's a great nickname, honestly. And then I think John told, I forgot the announcer's name, but
Tiger Grass.
yeah, to start referring to him as Iron Ort. I think he said it a few times on air.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a great nickname.
I was gonna ask you about that. How do you feel like it kind of fits him, his play style?
Yeah, he's a hard-nosed player. He's somebody who's gonna come down and hit. He's not gonna tap out. I think it's great. Iron is one of the toughest elements, just like Iron Ort. I think it's great.
How would you kind of
That's
describe?
funny.
Yeah, how would you kind of describe his leadership style, his defense, and how he takes charge of it?
Yeah, Ort is hands-on for sure. Very vocal. Somebody that everybody respects, not just because he's a great player, but he just does the right things on and off the field. I have a great amount of respect for Ort ever since I got here. Just somebody who just works hard, doesn't do the most, just works hard, does what he's supposed to do, on time to meetings, taking notes. Literally everything you could think of that's good, Ort possesses it. So I think that's something about Ort where everybody looks at and like, that's a guy that's doing the right thing. Let me take after him. If he says something, yeah, I'm definitely going to listen to him because chances are he probably knows what he's talking about.
Getting Drew back against Idaho and him, kind of playing this past stretch, you obviously had that big interception. Just what's it been like to get him back in that secondary?
Big time. Drew has been a great player. His size, length, athleticism plays a huge factor in our defense. And I'm so happy for him getting his first career pick. That was big time for him. We were in the right coverage. He was in the right spot. He made a great play on the ball. So I think getting him back has definitely been a huge impact. Just having him at free safety, somebody who's going to come down and hit, somebody who's going to be a ball hawk, somebody who's going to be able to communicate. All of the above. He just like Ort, he's somebody back there who also can do the right thing for us. So I think Drew's a great player for us, and having him back has been everything.
You guys have been so good at staying consistent, and now it's November. How do you guys look with how important these next 3 games are to stay with them?
Yeah, I think we just have to keep doing what we've been doing, just going 1-0 every day in the weight room and in the meeting room, on the practice field, during walkthroughs. Everything has to be that 1-0 mentality. Like we need to win that. In Indy, when we're just doing simple fundamentals, that needs to be 1-0. So I think if we can keep that up, then we can keep going 1-0 throughout the whole season.
Tom mentioned that the way you guys kind of responded when he threw the interception and kind of had his back is what he said.
Definitely.
So, yeah, what was your perspective on how you guys were attacking that next drive after his pick?
Yeah, first of all, Tommy played a great game. He's having a great season as well. I'm pretty sure we all seen that. This is like anything. If one of our brothers goes down or doesn't have the greatest play, it's not the end of the world because we got the rest of the team to pick him back up. So, we knew it was a sudden change moment. We would have to get on the field and try to go get another big stop. That's what we did.
All right, thanks, Tim.
Yeah, appreciate y'all.